Hello, hello. How are you today? How is your week? How is your week? What do you do? Any plans for this weekend? Hi, hi. Any plans for this weekend? Hello, hello. It was bad. What week was bad? Why is that? How come? Why was this week bad? Hello, I'm enthusiastic. Cool. I broke my arm. Oh, poor you. I think everything will be fine. Sometimes it happens, especially in summer. Everybody, a lot of people break arm, their limbs. So, right. Sometimes it happens. Yeah, what can we do? So I would like to look at the projects that you've sent me. Let's have a look. Great. So Sasha made this project. Saturn is the sixth planet from the sun and the second largest planet in the solar system after Jupiter. Saturn, along with Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune, are classified as gas giant planets. Wow, great. Thanks a lot for doing this. It's very cool. I like it. Oh, it's great. Thanks a lot. It's my, yeah, I know that it's yours. You wrote that it's Sasha's. Great, thanks a lot. I just love watching these cool projects. Cool. I really like that. Okay. Uh, Fine. So this week is the prize webinar, and the most active students today will get a present from me. So please be active. I don't count the comments, hi, hello, about your plan for the weekend. I just count those comments that are about our webinar and the topic of the webinar. So please be active. It should be interesting. So it's our 7th week and 7th webinar. Thanks for the project, Sasha. Good job. I really love that. So this week we will learn past perfect tense. We are going to watch a very interesting video by Justin. And after that, we are going to talk a little bit about art and all the vocabulary connected with art. So let's start with the present perfect. Oh my God. So past perfect, present perfect, right? Present. The past perfect tense might also be referred to as the pluperfect tense, as it's something which is commonly used in spoken and written language. This tense is used in order to talk about an event which has taken place before a certain event in the past. This might sound complicated, but it certainly isn't. So today we are going to be taking a look at the past perfect tense in much more detail and the rules that surround its use. This will enable you to create much more detailed and complex sentences when talking about the past. So what's that? What's past perfect? The past perfect keeps the past in the past, as they say. The verbs that are placed in this tense have to happen and complete before a related action can occur. This past participle tense takes the past form of the verb to have as a modifier. Had talked. The past perfect form has a couple of different functions as it can perform. It can describe an action that occurred in the past that is related to another action that occurred in the past after the first action. I had driven to Pittsburgh before driving on to Detroit. I had driven to Pittsburgh before driving on to Detroit. It can describe two non-continuous actions that occurred in sequence. I had driven to Florida and then boarded a cruise 2 days later. I had driven to Florida and then had boarded a cruise 2 days later. These two functions are very similar, but the nuances between them are a bit different in terms of what information is conveyed to the listener or to a reader. The exercise section below includes several really good examples that demonstrate how to use the past perfect in real conversation. After looking through these examples, keep listening to me until the very end for some additional practice questions concerning how to choose the right form of this verb tense to complete a sentence. So, the past perfect is used to talk about actions that were completed before some point in the past. The past perfect is formed by combining had with the past participle of the main verb. In the positive sentence, subject plus had plus past participle. Example, she had finished the test. Negative sentence, subject plus had not or hadn't, past participle. She hadn't finished the test. And question form, had plus subject plus past participle. Had she finished the test, right? So we don't have has or have, we only have one, had. So let's have a look at the examples. My kids were really exhausted and ready for sleep because they had both played soccer for hours that afternoon. Yeah, they were really exhausted, and before they had played soccer for hours that afternoon. My daughter had won the 2 previous spelling bees, which made her feel very disappointed when she lost this year to another student. So she had won the 2 previous spelling competitions and she lost this year. But before 2 previous years, she had won. I had just arrived at the airport gate when I saw the attendant closing the gate. I had just arrived when I saw, right? I first arrived, then I saw. My teacher thought she had sent out letters to all the parents about the upcoming field trip until she found all the papers sitting in the copy tray. My teacher thought she had sent out the letters. First, she had sent out the letters. After that, she thought. And after that, she found that all the papers were in the copy tray. I had paid my son an allowance last year, but asked him to get a job this year instead. I had paid last year, but asked him this year. My son had volunteered to help me in the garden all summer until he realized how much work it actually was. Right? Had volunteered to help, but then he realized how much work it is. Had you concentrated harder on learning your ABCs in elementary school or in elementary school, these reports wouldn't be as difficult for you to write now that you've an office job. Had you concentrated harder on learning your ABCs, these reports wouldn't be as difficult for you now. So here we have the third conditional, not the third. We have a mixed conditional with the third and the second, right? You hadn't concentrated harder on your ABCs in your elementary class, so you wouldn't be so it wouldn't be so difficult for you if you had concentrated harder. It wouldn't be so difficult for you now. Cool. Can you tell me how much money you had saved up before your student loan became due? Can you tell me how much money you had saved before your student due or your student loan became due, right? Can you tell me how much money you had saved up before your student loan became due? I had played a trick on my neighbors the past Halloween, but then they called the police and reported me. So I had played a trick last year and then they called the police and reported me. My friend had slept over at my house for the last 2 weeks, and then I spent the 2 next weekends at his place. So had slept over at my house for the last 2 weeks, and then I spent the next 2 weekends at his place. So how to use the past perfect? The past perfect tense is used to describe an action finished before another past action. Richard had gone out when his wife arrived in the office. One action happened before another action. To describe an action that happened before a specific time in the past. Christine had never been to an opera before last night. A specific time, right? Had never been before to an opera. To describe cause and effect, combination with past simple. I got stuck in traffic because there had been an accident. I was late on an interview because I had overslept. Cause and effect. To emphasize the result of activity in the past. I had been to London twice by the time I got a job in New York, right? To emphasize the result. I had been to London twice by the time I got a job in New York. Usually used with by, because it's the result, right? Okay. Time expressions. So what time expressions are used with past perfect? Already, yet, for, since, just, after, before, until, the moment that, right? By is also very popular. So, okay. Let's repeat again. Already, yet, for, since, just, after, before, until, and the moment that. These are the most popular time expressions for past perfect. Good. So now let's have a look at the video by Justine. I just love this native speaker, and he's very popular on YouTube. And he was in Ukraine, and he is actually now in Ukraine, it seems to me. I was once on his, it was like session or training. So he was delivering a speech in Kyiv, here in Kyiv.
Привет, красавчики! Меня зовут Джастин, я носитель английского языка. И сегодня я вам расскажу большой секрет, что такое past perfect, почему мы его используем и как его очень четко понимать и как его хорошо использовать. So let's get this going. Я очень быстро скажу, что теперь в нашей онлайн-школе English Buzz у нас теперь есть курс English Tenses Mastery, который очень глубоко вам научит про все 12 английских времен. Если вам будет интересно больше об этом курсе слышать, то посмотрите до конца видео, я вам подробно расскажу в конце. Поехали! Чтобы рассказать, что случилось в прошлом, мы используем past simple. Тогда все действия будут идти один за одним. I woke up at 10 o'clock, I took a shower, then I ate an apple, and I went to work. Действия происходят один за одним. Сначала проснулся, потом принял душ, потом покушал, потом пошел на работу. Но что вы скажете, если вы хотите сказать, что одно действие произошло раньше другого? Представьте порядок. И тут нам на помощь приходит past perfect. Вы идите в кино, вы купили попкорн и уже сразу понимаете, что фильм уже начался 5 минут назад. Значит, что фильм уже начался до того, как мы пришли. То есть одно действие в прошедшем начался раньше другого действия в прошедшем. И поэтому мы будем тут использовать past perfect. То есть как его теперь устроить? Ну, past perfect строится с помощью had и глагола в третьей форме. Нам не важно лицо, потому что всегда будет had. I had eaten a sandwich before I took a shower. Я скушал бутерброд перед тем, как пойти в душ. He had read all of the author's books by the time he was 18. Когда ему было 18, он уже прочитал все книги этого автора. И чтобы сделать отрицательное предложение, надо только добавить частицу not к had. When we got to the party, Jack hadn't already drinking all the champagne. Когда мы пришли на вечеринку, Джек не успел выпить все шампанское. The police looked for witnesses, but the neighbors hadn't seen the killer. Полиция искали свидетелей, но никто из соседей видели киллера. Чтобы задать вопрос, мы обычно ставим наш глагол had на первое место и потом глагол в третьей форме. Had you cleaned up the mess by the time they came home? Ты успел убрать порядок во времени, когда они пришли? Had you read Harry Potter before you watched the movie? Ты прочитал книгу Гарри Поттер перед тем, как ты посмотрел фильм? Как-то раз я приготовил себе блинчики на утро, и я лег спать потом. И когда я проснулся, я пошел на кухню, но они не оказались быть в холодильнике. Кто-то их съел. И я скажу, somebody had eaten all of my pancakes before I woke up. Получается, кто-то съел мои блинчики перед тем, как я проснулся. И у нас всегда в предложении будут две части. Первая часть будет в прошлом, прошедшем времени, past simple. И вторая часть, действие, которое произошло раньше всех, будет в past perfect. Потому что оно произошло раньше всех остальных, и значит, что оно про самое прошедшее. When we came back to the bar, the party had already started. Когда мы пошли к бару, там вечеринка уже была в полном разгаре. Люди уже пришли в баре, начали выпить, кто-то уже танцует на столе, и только потом мы пришли в бар. I was already in the airport when I realized that I had forgotten my passport. Я был уже в аэропорту, когда я понял, что я оставил паспорт дома. Самое прошедшее время в этом случае это то, что я оставил паспорт дома и забыл его. И когда я уже был в аэропорту, я только тогда понял, что я не сделал. We were late, so when I got there, the film had already started. Мы пришли поздно в кино, и когда мы сели, уже фильм начался. Сначала начались трейлеры, рекламы, и фильм уже начался. И только тогда, когда мы пришли, мы начали сами смотреть. Фильм начался, это первое действие, а мы пришли, это второе. Но когда лучше не использовать past perfect? Это когда вы рассказываете историю, и все действия происходят один за одним. То есть сначала первое действие, а потом пятое, десятое, неважно. И когда вас что-то спрашивают в past simple. What did you do yesterday? What happened? How was it? И так далее, и так далее. И таким образом past perfect используется часто, когда мы рассказываем какую-то историю в прошедшем, и какое-то действие произошло именно раньше другого. Past perfect состоится из глагола had, который не меняется, и потом глагол в третьей форме. Если глагол будет правильный, то мы добавляем ed в конце глагола, а если это будет неправильно, то мы смотрим именно на третьей форме неправильных глаголов. Самое последнее действие, которое произошло, ставим в past perfect, а другое действие в past simple. I had gone before they came. Я ушел, это последнее действие, и они пришли, это наше второе действие. Дальше у нас будет мини-тест для того, чтобы проверить то, что я вам скажу. Но, как я обещал, если вы хотели бы очень-очень глубоко, четко и прекрасно понимать и использовать все 12, то сразу при подписке на наш All Access Pass, который вам дает доступ на все курсы, которые у нас есть. И теперь пора на тест. Вам будет нужно перевести это предложение с русского языка на английский. Я выиграл соревнование вчера, потому что я много тренировался с братом. И теперь подумайте. Может даже ставить на паузу, если хотите. И правильный ответ был такой: I won the contest yesterday because I had practiced a lot with my brother. Второе. Следующее предложение будет вопросительное. У тебя давно был компьютер перед тем, как он сломался? Опять подумайте. Это будет немного сложно, но правильный ответ будет: Had you had your computer for very long before it broke down? И третье и последнее предложение. Я закончил работать в 3 часа. Подумайте. Что-то тут не так, да? И правильный ответ будет: I finished my work at 3 o'clock. Да, я вас обманул, потому что это было прошедшее простое время. Я просто хотел узнать, если вы правильно поняли, как это их отличать. На этом все, ребята. Не забудьте подписаться на канал. Напишите комментариями с примерами с past perfect внизу. Я на самом деле читал эти комментарии, так что вы можете мне что-то смешное написать. Буду классно даже. I will see you all in the next video.
Okay. Good. So I like him. He's a great guy and he's so positive. So now let's practice ourselves. Match the first part of the sentence on the left with the correct ending on the right. So can you please write the correct answer? In the chat. 1 to 3 with ABC. Betty's plants died because. Bob couldn't buy the new computer because. Sammy couldn't fall asleep last night because. The little girl was crying because. I didn't have to buy groceries. Kevin failed his exam. Monty bought a new camera. Clara couldn't pay for lunch. Susan slept late. I couldn't speak to the boss. I cannot see. What? Presentation or what? You can't see the presentation itself? Ah, yeah. Nope. Here. Oh, it's here. Something with YouTube, actually. My colleagues are writing that they also can see the presentation itself. So I don't know quite what's happening with the YouTube stream. Yeah. It's something with YouTube because my colleagues are writing the same, that nobody can see the presentation. Something with the stream. Okay, cool. Good. So Patty's plants died because she hadn't watered them, right? Great. She hadn't watered them. Bob couldn't buy the new computer because he had spent all his money. Sammy couldn't fall asleep last night because he had watched a scary movie. The little girl was crying because she'd lost her doll. Pay attention to the pronunciation of past perfect, because usually, as with all of the auxiliary verbs, we don't pronounce them. For example, pay attention. The little girl was crying because she'd lost her doll. She'd lost her doll. Lost her doll. Lost her doll. She'd lost a doll. Yeah, so together, she'd lost a doll. Something like not English, but Spanish or something. Okay. I didn't have to buy groceries because I had gone shopping the day before, right? What's with the answers? Blurred. Um, Kevin failed his exam because what? Failed his exam? He hadn't studied at all. He hadn't studied at all. Monty bought a new camera because he had lost his old one. Clara couldn't pay for lunch because she'd left her purse at home. Susan slept late because what had happened to her. Maybe something she'd forgotten to set the alarm, right? She slept late because she'd forgotten to set the alarm. I couldn't speak to the boss because he had already left the office. He'd already left the office. Right. 2E, 3H, 4A. Right. Sasha, good job. A great job, I could say. Right, Sasha, good job. Let's go to another one. Let's complete the following sentences using the past perfect. For example, I didn't meet Ellie for lunch because she'd already eaten, right? My trip to New York was very exciting because I not be before. My trip to New York was very exciting. I couldn't see the doctor because leave the office. I couldn't buy the car I wanted because the car dealer already sell. We couldn't see the new exhibit because the museum already closed. Good. My trip to New York was very exciting because I hadn't been there before. I couldn't see the doctor because he'd already left the office. I couldn't buy the car I wanted because the car dealer had already sold it. We couldn't see the new exhibit because the museum had already been closed. Had already been closed or had already closed, doesn't matter. We couldn't see the new exhibit because the museum had already been closed, right? Good. I wasn't there before. No, we don't use past simple. We use past perfect. So pay attention, please. I lost your chat, so I'm going to get back to this chat in a second. I couldn't see your comments. Something with chat. I'm going to reload it. Okay. Okay. Good. I see it. I hadn't been there before. He already had been left the office. He'd already left. We should put already just all this stuff we should put inside the construction. Already left the office. He had already left the office. Why do you use been? Been is passive. We don't need passive. We can use passive in number 4, but it's just as you wish. We couldn't see the new exhibit because the museum had already closed or had already been closed. Doesn't matter. Okay. Something very strange, actually. Oh, here. Okay, good. Let's get going. I have already left. Now let's play a little bit of bamboozle. I will show you the presentation. Can you please type in the chat box the correct answers to these questions? Had already sold it, right? The car dealer. Cool. Have a look at the first one. When we came back, it was cold in the house because Alice closed not the windows. It was cold in the house. Right, he'd already left the office. So when we came back, it wasn't cold in the house because Alice hadn't closed the windows. The thief could walk right into the house because you lock not the door. Could walk right into the house because you hadn't locked the door, right? After he worked very hard, he fall ill. After he worked very hard, it's interesting for me to know number 3. After he worked very hard, he fall ill. Can you type in the chat box? Close. Okay. Number 3. After he worked very hard, he fall ill. Can you please type a correct version? Hadn't closed. Yeah, good. Okay. After he worked very hard, he fall ill. After he worked or had worked, he fell or had fallen. Had fallen, had worked, and fold. Fold, there is no such word. Sorry. So, after he had worked before, right? Hard, he fell ill. He fell ill. After he had worked, he fell ill. First, he had worked and then fell ill. We ate at a restaurant last night because I buy not anything for dinner. Here's hadn't bought, right? When Julie got home from her holiday, there is no such word. It's fall, fell, fallen. It's fall. Repeat, please, repeat irregular verbs. It's very important for you because you don't know them. Fell, fall, fell, fallen. . So very hard, he fell ill. We added the head and bought. When Julie got home from her holiday, the flat was a mess. John had had a party, right? Had a party. John played the piano when he was a child, but he doesn't play now. Had fallen, right? John played the piano when he was a child, but he doesn't play now. What's the correct tense here? Can you type in the chat box? Played or had played? Played or had played? John play or played? Played. Let's check. Played, right? Okay. What Bob do that he was kept in after school? What had Bob done that he was kept in after school? What had Bob done? They go to a restaurant after they sail. Not have played, just in the childhood. It's past simple. There is no need to use past perfect. They go to a restaurant after they sailed. They went to a restaurant after they had sailed. After Columbus discovered America, he returned to Spain. So first he discovered, then he returned. So after Columbus had discovered America, he returned to Spain. Good. Before they start the party, they invite some friends. Before they started the party, they had invited some friends. So they first of all they invited, and then they started the party. He asked me which animals I see in Africa. He asked me which animals I'd seen in Africa. Good. Went, right. She opened the box after she found the key. She opened the box after she had found the key. First, she had found the key. After that, she opened the box. Logically. Had he lived in London before he moved to Glasgow? Had he lived in London before he moved to Glasgow? You eat anything before you went to the theater? Had you eaten anything before you went to the theater? Right. After they see the tower, they go to Westminster Abbey. After they'd seen the tower, they went to Westminster Abbey. Carly washed the dishes when her mom came home. Had Carly washed the dishes? Why they have dinner before they came to the party? Why had they had dinner? Had they had. In past perfect, have becomes had had. In the shopping center, I met a friend who I hadn't seen for ages. We lost the match because we practiced not the days before. We hadn't practiced. When I opened the curtains, the sun was shining and the ground was white. it had been snowing during the night, or it had snowed during the night. Before they moved to Liverpool, they sell everything. Before they moved to Liverpool, they had sold everything. First, they'd sold, and after that, they moved. Great. They book a room before they went to Dublin. Had they booked the room before they went to Dublin? When I get to the airport, I discovered I had forgotten my passport. When I had forgotten. Had she washed? Had Carly washed, right? Here. At school, Jim quickly copied the homework that he hadn't done, right? I went to the library, then I buy some milk and went home. Just bought one after another. I went to the library, bought some milk and went home. And the last one, it rained all summer, so the grass was completely dead. It hadn't rained. Right. Okay. So do you have any questions about past perfect? Do you have any questions about this topic? It's quite difficult at times. But still, everybody can cope with it. Can you please type in the chat box the questions that you have? Bought, got, right. Very attentive, very committed people. What's the first? So Sasha writes, what's the first? Perfect or simple? Perfect, of course. Perfect, of course. You listen to Justin. She told, or he told, right? Perfect. Before I went to Turkey, I had bought tickets. Before I went to Turkey, it's two. It's two. The second, I bought tickets. It's first. Before I went to Turkey, too. I'd bought tickets. First, I bought tickets. After that, I went to Turkey. That's why perfect. Okay. Speaking about arts. Art is an essential part of each state, city, and person's life. The word art has a set of definitions, characteristics, and peculiarities, but each person imagines and interprets it in a special way. People sometimes ask question, is the Deleuze painting art? And Shakespeare's sonnets? And without hesitation or doubt, they give a positive answer to this question. And is a sunset combining inexpressible situation colors art? And the first smile of a child? Every person has his own answer to these questions because each of us has a personal view of the world and will look at surrounding reality from different angles. In my opinion, art is an imaginative reflection of reality, the main goal of which is interrelation of people with something wonderful, sensitive, interesting, beautiful, sometimes even unexplainable and contradictory. I think that cinema, painting, architecture, and other kinds of art should arouse different emotions, feelings, and thoughts in human soul and mind. Undoubtedly, the same work of art can stir up absolutely opposite feelings in people's souls. For example, looking at the fresco Last Judgment by Michelangelo, the splendid and talented creator of the Renaissance era, in the Sistine Chapel, some people admire the beauty of conveyed images. Other people think about the idea of world division into saints and sinners. Someone thinks about the correlation between good and evil, and these consequence of emotions and thoughts can be endlessly continued. All kinds of art enrich our inner world and give us new knowledge about surrounding world. In works of art, we see the author's point of view on some situations, or generalized knowledge of the creator expressed with the help of artistic images. We can agree or disagree with the author's opinion because each person has his own vision of the world. There is no right or wrong opinion. So many men, so many minds. Art plays a great role in our life as long as it makes us think about significant problems and things happening around us, till art excites human mind and doesn't leave us indifferent. Great classical writers such as Pushkin, Dostoevsky, Bulgakov, and others touched very important problems of mankind in their works: love and hate, war and peace, guilt and repentance, talent and mediocrity, friendship and betrayal. I think that dramatic plots described in works of these great authors will help people to revalue their attitude to life, warn and stop them from cruel, thoughtless, or unfair actions. Influence of art is great. It can make us smile or cry, love or hate, be glad or be worried. It can inspire or make us pluck up our courage when we are spiritually and morally broken. Art sometimes can be the only means which can inspire heroic deed or support us in a difficult situation. It was so during the years of war. People were morally exhausted and suffered under the burden of losses. And when there was no force to fight and there was no force to leave, art gave confidence to people, brought into the atmosphere of ruin and panic some inexpressible atmosphere of warmth and calm, gave people second wind and made them live again, love and fight for happiness. Soldiers went to the battle singing military songs about feat of arms, honor, motherland, love, and about native home and feelings. Arousing by these thorns overshadowed feelings of fear, horror, and pain. In conclusion, I should say that the interest, irrespective of kind of art and its personal perception, it occupies a very important place in our life. Art is also an essential part of life, and it has a direct influence on us. Good. So let's practice a little bit. Um, with these pictures. So where is texture here? What do you think? So texture is this one, right? The texture. Space, right? This one, space. Value, this one. So different shades, value. Shapes, this one. Lines, right? Colors, or it can be shapes here, colors here. Oh, here it seems to me colors and form, different form, right? This form, shapes, colors. Okay, now let's check your understanding of art stuff. An artist is a person who can make art. Many artists like to paint with watercolors, while other artists like to use what? Watercolors or oil, right? Where can I see some paintings? At the museum or art gallery? Art gallery, of course. A picture you draw is called a drawing. A picture you paint is called a painting. Art that looks real is called realistic. Some artists called sculptors can make art from hard materials like rock. They make sculptures, right? Monuments or statues. Is the name of famous painting made by Da Vinci, the Mona Lisa, right? People put paintings inside a frame and then hang them on walls. If you want to learn how to draw paint, you can take an art class. Color is very important in most kinds of art. Some examples are red, blue, and green. Artists use a paint to add color to their paintings. Paint brush. Artists usually make a quick drawing or a sketch before they begin to paint. And many children like to draw with crayons, right? With crayons, we have crayons. Most that was made in the last 100 years doesn't look realistic. Most modern art, right? Good. Texture in the end, right? So let's speak a little bit. So if the art could talk, what would it say? What do you think? By Camille Villala. If the art could talk, what would it say? I think that the art will tell people's opinions, right? What is mysterious about this artwork? Wildcat. Interesting. Why do you think this artist created this work? Only the finest were turning gay. I don't know, because he was in love. If you could ask this artwork a question, what would you ask it? Don't eat the sun. Don't eat the sun. What's that? Thornhill, Untitled. Okay. Good. So you can practice these at home. I just like this activity, but it has, we need to have more time for this. Thank you a lot. So the most active person was Ratmir today, because Sasha, I'm sorry, Sasha, you were really active today and some previous lessons before. And Ratmir was today especially active. So Ratmir, congratulations, you will get the prize from me. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a nice weekend.